Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches NIDAH Daf Nun Beis. We begin at the Mishnah right on top of the Amid. So, at what point does a young man or woman get the status of adult? So, aside from the age factor, by a woman it's 12 years, by a man it's 13. They need to also exhibit signs of maturity, like the two sa'aras, the two pubic hairs, which confirms their status of adult. Says the Mishnah. A young woman who exhibits these two sa'aras, she's considered a full adult, and therefore, if it comes to the point of chalitza or yibum, she's eligible. Something which is unique to an adult. And likewise, she's obligated to all the mitzvahs in the Torah. And likewise, on the other side of the mechitza, a young man, once he hits 13, plus he exhibits physical signs of maturity, he too is chayav b'chol mitzvahs hamuras b'Torah. And likewise, at that point, he can potentially become a ben soirer u'moirer, that wayward son discussed back in Maseches Sanhedrin, who steals and is gluttonous, subject to the process, to the punishment of ben soirer u'moirer. But that is limited to a very narrow window, very narrow age window, from when he hits adulthood for the next couple of months, and that's it. As Rashi explains, because the pasuk calls him a ben v'lo haroi liyos av, as opposed to one who can potentially father a child. So when he gets to that point, he's no longer eligible to be a ben soirer u'moirer. So when is that? Says the Mishnah, v'roi liyos ben soirer u'moirer. He can become a ben soirer u'moirer from Mishiyav Shtei Saris, once he develops the two hair, that's the starting point, ad. And what's the cutoff point? Shiakiv Zaka. Once he develops a beard. And Mishnah explains, HaTachton Milei Elyon. We're talking about accumulation of hair in the lower area of the body, as opposed to facial hair. So why does the Mishnah refer to it as a zakan, which typically relates to a facial beard? It's a more dignified manner of reference. Ella, rather, shedibru chachamim l'shenikia. Chachamim sought to express themselves with dignity and refinement. Now we know that a young woman who is married off by her family, her mother, her sister, her father's not around. The father marries her off. She's considered married min haTorah, but otherwise it's only midrabanan, which allows her to turn around and separate without even a process of a get. But that ends when she turns adult. Tinoikis, once she develops the signs of maturity, she can no longer turn around and leave her husband without a proper divorce process. Rabbi Daimer, she has a bit more time, once the blackness increases, so the area becomes more grown in, then she appears like a real adult. At that point, min is no longer an option. Now let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. We discussed the trigger point of adulthood by a woman, and then over to the boy. Why the repetition? And also, why does the Mishnah, once it made reference to all the mitzvahs, why do it have to point out that she's eligible for chalitza and yibum, which is, one of the mitzvahs in the Torah? Wouldn't you assume it's included? Once it gives that general directive that she's committed to everything, so why add the reference to specifics? What's that for? As opposed to Rabbi Yossi, who says, the Amar, there's no need to be an adult for chalitza. The Amar ish kasav parsha. When it comes to the man participating in chalitza, he has to be an adult ish. Aval isha, but on the woman's side, age is not a factor. Being doilo, being tan, even a minor is eligible. Kamashmon comes the Mishnah and teaches us otherwise. Our opinion is she must be an adult to experience chalitza. The Aisi Saris in, she has the signs of adulthood. Yep, she's in. Eloi, but otherwise loy. Why my timer? Ishokish, we compare the woman in the process to the man, and since adulthood is a requirement by him, by her as well. Now comes the next question. Why repeat the entire system by the boy? Once we apply to the tinaykes, we assume the same with the tinak. In fact, the Mishnah says v'chein tinak. V'chivan the Tana v'chein tinak. Once the Mishnah copies it over, the same would apply to the boy. Why is there any need for further elaboration? Apply the same concept to the boy who has shtei saros, he's chayiv and everything. Why the added elaboration of saying shevi shtei saros, chayiv b'chol mitzvah b'sipra Torah? Lamali, what's the point of repeating this? Perhaps, although it's not needed for its own sake, it's just sort of a lead on to the next point of Ben Soyer Meira, which only applies to a boy, so we, refer to the basic fact as well, basic halacha as well. Perhaps because the Mishnah sought to continue on and refer to the boy in the context of V'roi Liois Ben Soyer Meira, and that's why it just referred to the entire thing, even though it seems to be a repetition. Well, that too is not really needed, because Tanyan Chadazim, that's been discussed back in Sanhedrin, where we learned the exact time frame of Ben Soyer Meira. Ema Sayhu Ben Soyer Meira. At what point can he become Ben Soyer Meira? Mishavish Shtei Saros, Vach Yaakov Zakon, right? Hatachmal Elyon, etc., etc. So it's been discussed back in Sanhedrin. Inechanami, you're right. There's no real need to repeat that here, but Ella, rather, I did the Parish Milu Tinoikas. Once we delve into the details of the Tinoikas, which wasn't yet discussed elsewhere, so for completeness' sake, the Mishnah refers over to the boy as well with all his details. Tinoikas Shivia B'chul. Okay, what's the cutoff point for miyun? Tanakama says shtei saros. Rabbi Yehuda says further a bit, yarba hashachar. So, interestingly, she's certainly an adult already. Even Rabbi Yehuda agrees she becomes a g'dayla once she reaches the age of 12 with the shtei saros. However, according to Rabbi Yehuda, she can still do miyun until she appears like a super adult, at which point we stop the miyun process. At this point, people can get confused, misconceived that an adult is just walking over her husband, not realizing that this marriage was really initiated when she was a ketana, in which case the entire marriage is only the rabbanon, but we have to give it, some context, some limitation, up until this point. So ironically, she's already a g'dayla, but she can walk off her husband between the time she turns 12 and the Yarba HaShachar, which is a couple of months later. And again, the point is because she's still experiencing a marriage midrabbanon, on which the Gemara explains for us, Amar Bavo, Amar Balazar, Loch Rabbi Yehuda. On the one hand, we do follow Rabbi Yehuda's shita, we give her an extension into adulthood somewhat, to do miyun, but, of course, that's only because her marriage is merely midrabbanon. Even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that if somehow the marriage got upgraded, let's say they lived together, spent physically time with each other after she became an adult, so now the marriage becomes upgraded to the Doirai, so you can't just walk off without a get. She interacted with her husband after she turned an adult. Miyun is no longer an option. Okay, so just to stop for a second, miyun is the rejection of a husband who married her merely with rabbinic status. According to Tanakama, miyun can only take place until she turns bas mitzvah, 12 years old with the shtei saros. Rabbi says she has a bit more time, provided the marriage is still retained as a nisuin d'Rabbanan, but if they spend time together after she turned an adult, that marriage has now been upgraded to a higher level. It's Deiraisa, which requires a get. Now, actually, Chavroider of Kahana's colleagues, they were slated to actually carry out halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, to allow this 12 plus wife to walk away, even though there was time spent together after she turned an adult. Amul Rav Kahana corrected them. No, even Rabbi Yehuda did not have this in mind. In fact, there was a whole story, like Hachayamasa, Wasn't there such a story? Rabbi Shmuel's own daughter, who had married when she was a Yisayma. Rashi says her mother married her off when she was a Yisayma, Ketana, in which case the marriage is merely the Rabbanon. And now she grew up as a ripe adult, and she had a baby, in fact. She decided, okay, she wants to leave the marriage. Who's riding on her shoulders? Her own son. She's old enough to give birth, to have a son on the shoulders. So she's given 50 years old. And they were inclined to allow her to do miyun because the marriage was really only the Rabbanon. And first explained the Talmidim, the members of Beis HaMedrash, they misunderstood. They thought that according to Rabbi Shmuel, we'll see in a minute, he holds that there's no time limit. Because since the marriage was initiated with the Rabbanon, even if they spend time together after adulthood, it doesn't matter. It's based on that initial marriage. There's no upgrade, unless there was explicit intention to upgrade it. But otherwise, it's presumed to be merely a continuation of the initial marriage, which is the Rabbanon, which allows for miyun. In this case, it would have triggered a great tragedy. Breaking up a family would have created havoc here. On that day, they recalled Rabbi Shmuel's teaching that he had taught regarding this type of matter. So the Beis HaMedrash discussed it, and it was about to result in tragedy. The Beis HaMedrash knew, crying this great cry. They said, how could it be so? Her father, Rabbi Shmuel the Tzaddik, his own teaching, his own lesson should cause tragedy in his own family? They said, Davar Shamar Ishet Tzaddik. The word of that great tzaddik, Yukosha Beizari, should be a stumbling block for his own offspring. So what was it that Rishmuel actually taught them in the past? He seemed to have said that there's no issue doing miyun even at a later date. He said like this: Pasuk says a regular married woman. Let's shift to a regular standard marriage, the Raisa marriage. So she deviated and spent time with another man, and it wasn't forced. She's asura. She can't go back to her husband. That's the halacha. When she deviates, she becomes asur. Hanitfasa muteras. We imply that if she was grabbed or was forced, she can go back to her husband. Says Rabbi Shmuel, v'yesh locha acheres. So the word vehi says, in this case, it would be asur if she deviated willingly. But you should know there's another case where it appears very similar. She deviated, so to speak, willingly, and she still can go back to her husband. I'll give you another case. Even if it wasn't forced, she deviated willingly, she can go back to her husband. Which one is that? So a case where, for instance, she had been married to a fellow who convinced her that he's a kohen, on condition that I'm a kohen. Turns out he's really a Levi. Marriage is poof, it's gone. Kedushay toes. So in that sense, she was never married to this fellow, let's call him Reuben. So even if she deviated in the interim, it's not considered deviation from marriage. She was never married to him, so technically she can go back and marry him if she wants. And Rashi adds, they also compared a case of a Ktana to this as well. That if she would marry up by her mother and her brother, who don't really have the power to do so minat Torah. So in this case, it's not really a marriage, even if she's 50 years old. Since the initiation was when she was a Ktana, the whole thing is only kedushin d'Rabbanan. Even if she has her son riding on her shoulders, she can just walk off. And that's reflective of the status of the marriage. It's not really a marriage minat Torah. And therefore, Rashi says, by extension, if she deviated, even willingly, it's not considered an act of znus. And she doesn't become asur to this husband. Bottom line, what do we see? There's no time limit for miyun. But it turned out that it was an erroneous understanding. And in fact, they concluded otherwise. They clarified matters v'nimno, they took a vote, v'gomer, they concluded The Zohar of Kahana relating. This was a story. Admasa Abbas Ma'anes. That what's the deadline for Miyun? When she turns an adult. Ashatabish Saris. So he's turning to his colleagues. Don't allow this woman who had spent time with her husband after adulthood to just do Miyun, because now it's been upgraded. It becomes Nesuin D'Oraisa. Porush v'levad uvda. Okay, so they conceded, they backed off, and did not give the woman the green light for Miyun at this point. And the point was that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, she has an extension into adulthood. That is provided that there was no upgrade on the marriage. But if she spent time together after she turned an adult, that changes the whole status. And too late for Miyun. Here comes another similar story, Rabbi Yitzchak, and also the students, Talmidei Rabbi Chanina. They also ruled accordingly. Avad Uvda, Rabbi Yehuda, they followed Rabbi Yehuda, allowed Miyun, even into adulthood, even though there was time spent with her husband. Rav Shaman bar Abba. So he wasn't very happy, so he went, Amran, he related the story, Kamei, to Rabbi Yechanan. And Rabbi Yechanan went to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. Rabbi Yechanan, Amra Kamei, presented before Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, and he was very unhappy about it. He sent his Shadar Balsha, he sent a troop, he sent his people, Afku, and they took her out of her new husband, meaning, you can't do that. Because once she spent time as an adult, it becomes Nesuin D'Oraisa, which preempts any Miyun. Okay, so bottom line, what's the deadline for Miyun? Tanakama says Shtei Saris. Rebbe says a bit longer, Yarbe HaShachar. But, as the Gemara concluded, that is provided the marriage was merely midrabanan. But if they spent time together into adulthood, that changes the whole status of the marriage. Even Rabbi Yehuda would disallow Miyun at that point. Now, when Rabbi Yehuda speaks about Yarbe HaShachar, increasing of the hair, how much? Doesn't have to be such an increase of blackness, doesn't have to be such an abundance of hair. What he means to say is that the two saris that we're speaking of, they grew longer, they're lying, and it gives the appearance as though there is increased blackness over the white, over the skin. But it really is the same two here, just more developed. Rava Amar, he gives a different shiur, shtei saris, the two here have to be long enough to go from side to side of the area. Hamakifos misaf l'saf. Amar b'chabon Rav Huna. Shtei saris sha'amar. Whenever we speak about the two saris of adulthood, sarach shehei bikaran gumos, they have to be growing out of a follicle. Why? First, I'll explain, because without the gumos, without the cup sustaining it, it can easily fall out. So they have to be strong, healthy, properly rooted here in those follicles. From Malkaya Amar of Adabar Ava, he adds another point. You should know that really the actual hair are not needed. Gumais, the cups themselves, the follicles, which are indicative of hairs having been there, that's enough. Even though there are no hair there at the moment. Okay, now the Gemara will list us a total of 6 halachas, 3 of which were related by Rav Malkayoy. These are unique names in Shas, so easy to remember. 3 were Rav Malkayoy and 2 Malkayoy. Very similar sounding names, but 2 separate Amoraim, 3 and 3. One of which was the Gumais that we just discussed, and that's how we bring it in here. Amar Chanina Beid Rav Ika. There's a halacha called Shefud, back in Maseches Be'ah regarding Muktzah, a spit used for roasting. Shefachos, halacha regarding Shefachos, that's a Mishnah in Ksubis over there. Even though she has lots of maidservants, she has to be involved in some work, otherwise boredom can lead to derangement. The gumais, that's the halacha we just had, that the follicles themselves are sufficient even without the presence of hair. These 3 halachas were related by Rav Malkayoy. However, the following 3, bloiris, that's halacha back in Mesach Laved Zara, regarding the hairstyle of the guy that relates to idol worship, Efer Mikla regarding ashes, taking care that it isn't used for tattooing. V'gvina, and the reason why the gvinas of a goy is asur. So those discussions were presented by Rav Malkaya. 3 and 3. Rav Papa makes a switch. He says like this: Prabhu Amar Masnisan Umasnisa, those that came to explain, to elaborate a halacha in a Mishnah or a Brisa, which includes shvachos, because shvachos is that Mishnah in Ksubos. So he switches shvachos to Rav Malkaya. He says Rav Malkaya is the one that is in charge of the halachas relating to Mishnayos and Brises. Shmaitza, however, the standalone halachas presented by Amoraim, those three were of Malkaya. Simana, a good way to remember, Masnisa Malkasa, the Mishnayos, the Brises, they're the queens, they're the core of the Chachmas HaTorah, which relates to, similar to Rav Malkaya. Malkaya is like a queen, so a good way to remember who said what. My Binai, what's the difference between Rav Papa's configuration and the previous list? That one switch, Ike Binai Shvachos, Rashi learns, because according to Rav Papa's version, Shvachos goes over to Rav Malkaya, and it swaps with the Efer Mikle, which is not a halacha on a Mishnah, and that goes to Rav Malkaya, so he rearranges the 3 and 3. Amar Rav Ashi, Amar Mazur tells me, going back on the halacha that the gumais, the visible follicles, are sufficient even without the presence of hair. Rabbi Chaim Nesura had a question on that. Why isn't it found anywhere in Mishnayos? Look, the Shtamit Tana, wouldn't you think some Tana would have stepped out and made that point for us? Lashmina to teach us gumais, that gumais are sufficient even without hair? If you look throughout Shas, you always have a reference to Shtei Saris. There's no mention of just gumais being sufficient. Apparently it's not. No, Yashmin and gumais. The reason why the Mishnayos never refer to the gumais, because perhaps I would misunderstand it, and I would say, okay, that gumais are sufficient, but let's say you have the saras themselves. Each sar has to be growing out of its own follicle. Kamashmal, and that's why the Mishnah is always focused on the hair to tell us it's just about the number of hair. Follicles are not a factor to consider. Even if both hairs come growing out of the same cup, that's okay. Ask the Gemara, is that even physically possible? Isn't each hair meant to have its own source of sustenance? Pasuk, where Eiv is bemoaning his troubles, Asher b'sari shefeni, v'hirab tzayachinu Hashem, loaded me up with difficulties. V'amar Rava, Eiv, due to his hardship, spoke disrespectfully, b'sa'ara, in reference to a storm, a chirev. He expressed himself to Hashem disrespectfully. B'sa'ara shivu, likewise Hashem responded to him in kind, with a reference to sa'ara. What does that mean? B'sa'ara chirev, he expressed himself with sa'ara. Amar l'fanav, he turns to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom. Why am I going through such difficulties? Shema, I'm so loyal, I'm such a good boy. Shema ruach sa'ara avram l'fanecha. Can it be so that perhaps a windy storm, chas v'shalom, passed before you, and you got mixed up bein Eiv la'Eiv, between myself, Eiv, and the letters Yud and Vav was switched around, and it appeared like Eiv, like I'm your enemy, chas v'shalom. That's why I'm experiencing such difficulties. B'sarei shivu, Hashem responded in kind with sa'ara. Vayan Hashem as Eiv minas sa'ara. And Rashi learns, it's sort of a poetic play on word. Sa'ara over here actually means hairs. Sin and samach are interchangeable. Hashem responded to him with a reference to his hair. Take a look at how exact, how precise. I arranged your hair on your head. Don't you think I have it all organized? Everything is purposeful? Nothing got mixed up. Everything is with intent and for your good sake. Vayomer Lav, he tells him, you're being so foolish. Do you know how many hairs I created in a man's head? And each one has its own unique channel. Each one has its own guma. So that we never have two hairs coming out of the same guma. Because if it were so, that two hairs would be drawing from the same source, there would be an overload, and it would diminish, it would weaken a person's overall life force and his eyesight. So now that you heard that, I didn't get mixed up between the following cues. You think I get mixed up in Eiv and Oyev? Okay, bottom line, each hair has its own guma. And we're sanctioning 2 hairs out of the same guma? Like the answer is, it depends where. Haba gufa, throughout the body, you can have 2 growing out of the same guma. Haba reisha, but on the head, each one has to have its own channel. Further on the topic of the 2 hairs, shtei sarish amru, they need not be lined up adjacent to each other. Afilo achas ala kaf, achas ala beitzim. If one is on the crest, the area on the lower abdomen, and one is on the testicle, that's okay. Tanam, we find the same in the brisa. Shtei sarish amru, 2 hairs. Afilo, even one's in the rear area, one is in the front. Afilo achas begabov, achas bekreisa, or by the finger joint, or by the toe joints. Achas al gabi kishres b'aseh, by the finger joints. Shal yad. V'achas, the other one on the toe joints. Al gabi kishres b'aseh shal regel. It works. Divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish kvar akui. She'amar quotes mishum Rabbi Shimon. However, Rabbanan, they quote Amar Chisda. They have to be next to each other. Achiyu beisaris makam echad. Back to the Miyun time frame. Ad Masai Bas Ma'anas, what's the latest that a Bas can do Miyun? So we had a couple of Shittas before. Here come a couple more. Ad Shatav Shtei Saris, the Rabbi Meir. Kotar Meir, which is the Tanav al Mishnah earlier. Shtei Saris is the cutoff point. Rabbi Omer, another couple of months. Ad Shir Shachar. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Shtaka Torah. Until the area is surrounded like a crown with hair. Ben Shalkos Omer, interesting name of a Tana, Ben Shalkos Omer, he says way more hair is needed to terminate the miyun process. Acha to chalkel. Rashi learns it's an abundance of hair. It's like enclosed with hair, layered with hair. That's way later. Rabbi Shimon relates as follows. Metzani Chanina ben Chachinoi, who approaches me, Chanina ben Chachinoi, B'tzidan, the town of Tzidan. V'amar, and he asked me for a favor. When you approach Rabbi Kiva, ask him this question. Emar lo ad masai bas manas. Until when can she do me? Now, let me prepare you. Im yoy melacha, if he tells you until 2 hair, Emar lo, tell him, it should really be much later. But remember Ben Shalkus, he testified, hey, b'mamat kulchem, in your presence, b'yavne, in front of the yeshiva in Yavne, the way later, until there's that full grow in, and nobody opposed him. Apparently, it was accepted as fact. Okay, this is what you should. This is the message for Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Shimon relates that he carried out the job. So when I came to Rabbi Kiva, Amar Li. So when I asked him the question, he responded, Shtei Saris, and I countered with this whole anecdote, and he says to me, Kilkul? Amar Li, Kilkul Zeh, I'm not sure what this Kilkul is, meaning I'm not in agreement. And the source has been Shalkus, Eini Makar, not sure who he is. So that was his way of saying that I'm not on that track. In fact, at Masai Bas Ma'anas, I hold that the cutoff point for Miyun is the initiation of adulthood, that's Shtei Saris, and it's all over. Now, what about the length of the Shtei Saris? Shtei Saris Hamuris with Para, we have it by Para Aduma, 2 black hair. This qualifies the Para Aduma. Uvenugoyim, by the Negad, it has to be 2 white hair, that makes him tummy. Vamuris B'chal Mokim, and discussed elsewhere, is a reference to adulthood, which has all kinds of ramifications, right? So, how long must they be? We have 3 shittas. Long enough to be bent back to its source. So, you can bend it, fold it into 2. Even a bit shorter. As long as it's long enough that you can catch it with your nail. Even shorter than that. As long as you could give it a little snip with the scissors, which requires a shorter hair for that. We're not sure which way to go. which length is required, and therefore we go like all l'chumra, halacha k'derikun lahachmer, which means to say that as soon as she gets the size 1 here, miyun is over. But to give her chalitza abilities, for that you need size 3. Okay, so let's recap the sugya, the daf up to this point before we continue. So we know that tinaik v'tinaikes become adults by way of age, shanim, and the shtei saris. How long must the saris be? We have 3 shitas, the lakov, likris b'tzipurin, likris b'zug, tols b'zug, and we go like all of them l'chumra. Until a point can she do miyun? Tanakama says, until she becomes an adult, shtei saris. On which Rav Huna says, shtei saris have to be growing out of gumais. Rav Malkiah says, you know what, gumais themselves are sufficient even without the saris, because there are signs of hair that were there. We have a machlekes whether the 2 hair can be dispersed in 2 different places, or it needs to be in the same place. Back to the deadline of miyun. Rabbi Yehuda says she has a bit more time, at Shi'ar Shachar. He had some explanations on that. Rabbi Avo points out, but that is provided lo nivalad. It was never upgraded to an Asun Deiraisa, but otherwise, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree, miyun is no longer an option. Now, the Gemara had thought that according to Rabbi Shmuel, even a full-fledged adult with a baby is still eligible for miyun because it's based on the marriage which was merely the Rabbanim. But the Gemara corrected that understanding. According to Rabbi Yesi, Ashetaka Torah, according to Ben Shalkus, Ashetachalkel, and we know the whole story of Akiva, who negated that shita and concluded that it's shtei saris and no more. Continues the Mishnah. Now back to NIDAH. Haroya Kesen. Anisha discovers a stain on her garment. Not sure when it arrived. Not sure how to count her NIDAH, Zava count. She's not sure what she's holding in the calendar because this stain may have showed up today or yesterday or a week ago. Harezim Kulkelas, her count is now Orai. And she has to somehow work her way out of this confusion, which is actually discussed back in Maseches Erchin, Ayin Sham. Furthermore, let's say she has this super-sized stain. Now the stain, at a minimum, has to be the size of a gris, a large jumbo gris, a large bean. Let's call it, just for simplicity, a square inch. And she has a stain which is 3 times that size, 3 square inch. And she's now in the days of Ziva, so we know that when Isha sees Dam, she's tummy for the next 7 days as a NIDAH. After which come 11 days of Ziva, throughout which if she has 3 sightings in a row, 3 days in a row, she becomes a Zava G'doila. She has to observe Shiva Nakiyim with a carbon. So now when she has a triple-sized stain, it could have arrived separately. 1 Sunday, 1 Monday, 1 Tuesday. Even though it's situated next to each other, but it could have been split within 3 days. In which case she's a Zava G'doila. She had 3 sightings, 3 days in a row. We have to account for that possibility. We have to be machmir. No. How likely is it to have 1 stain split between 3 days? So they discount this concern. Now, who are the chacham? Man chacham. Let's put a name to the face. Rabbi Chanina Antignosi. This we have this discussion in the Brayso. Rabbi Chanina Antignosi Aimer. Ksavim ein behem mishum zoiv. You can't consider a zav on account of stains. And he'll explain soon why. But he says, even I agree. At times, it is a concern. Shaksamim mevi'in de ziva. That even stains can trigger ziva status. How? Okay, it's alav shagimel chalukes habdukas la. Oh, she wore 3 separate garments. 1 Sunday found a stain. 1 Monday found a stain. Then it's evident that there were 3 sightings during 3 consecutive days. So matzah, she is wearing this 3 chalukos, 3 garments, habadukas la, which were pre-examined by her, meaning they were confirmed to be clean before she put them on, so she knows that it was self-made. The matzah aleim kesem, she finds this kesem, 1 per garment. That confirms her as a zava. Or another example, shirasa beis yamim, Sunday, Monday, she had personal sightings of dam. On Tuesday, she found it on the garments. That confirms that it was 3 days in a row. In this case, even I agree she's a zava. But in your case, where she found a jumbo stain on just one garment, who's to say how it came about? Maybe it all came about during 1 day or 2 days. Now, before we get to that, these two examples, once you speak about the first case where it was 3 stains on 3 separate garments, which triggers Ziva, certainly in the second case where she had personal sightings from her own body, certainly in the first case, where the stain was on the 3 garments, it wasn't personal, it was on the garment, technically it could have come from anywhere. We are concerned that we apply the status of Zava to her. Now when we speak about Zava, she has to do the Shibud Akim, right? But she can't bring a carbon that will be eaten. You bring a carbon a suffix, because after all, it's not 100% confirmed. But in any case, we give her suffix Zava status. Certainly in the second case, where 2 out of the 3 were personal sightings, in which case it's more likely. Of course, why even discuss that second case, which seems to be obvious? Beis Yomim, 2 days she saw personally, and the third day there was a stain. It goes without saying. Well, the time there's room to think. The point of mentioning case 2 is because I would think that in that case, since 2 out of 3 were personal, were confirmed riyos, so even though the third one was merely a stain, which is a bit of speculation, perhaps that confirms her as a zava, and you could even eat her carbon. Kamashma, no. She's a zava up to a point, it's only bisafik. So at this point, we have a machlokes. Whether ksamim, or we should say a jumbo stain, can trigger ziva. Chacham say, yep. If it's a triple-sized stain, yeah. However, which is actually Rav Meir speaking in the Mishnah, whereas Ruchanim Antigonus disagrees. He says, yeah, if it's 3 stains on 3 separate garments, sure. Because each one confirms that day's sighting. So we have 3 consecutive days, but otherwise, if it's in the same garment, we don't have to assume the worst, and we could just suggest that it came about in duration of 1 day or 2 days, in which case she's not a zava. Amarava. Baha, using the following argument, Zakinu Rabbi Antigonus challenged and won them over in his argument. Meaning like this. Even you will concede that the concern only begins when she has this triple stain. Well, let's say it's less than 3 in the same spot. We're not concerned. Why? We say, look, we just split into 2. Sunday, Monday, but there was no 3 days. So why don't you just say the same with 3 stains together? If you have a triple stain together, there too I can divide in a way which does not trigger ziva. I could also say 2.5 inches were personal. So part was Sunday, part was Monday. And the other half inch, it came from elsewhere. A louse got squished there. Agav zuhama, on account of was attracted to the uncleanliness of the blood that was already there. Dam machelas was a louse that came walking by and got squished there. The Rabbanan will respond like this. No. When it's less than 3, so I don't really have basis to assume that it happened throughout 3 days, because I don't have 3 full amounts. Granted, we agree on that, but in this case, we have a triple stain, which can be split into 3, attributing 1 inch per day. We have to do that. We have to do machmer and assume worst case scenario. Since you can split the triple stain, begris va'oid, leaving each day with a gris and a bit, Rashi explains. Here we mean a average sized bean, which equals, so a bit more than that. Gris va'oid, average plus a bit, equals a super jumbo sized bean, which is the minimum requirement. Okay, just an expression, but anyways, that's their response. Lo talina. So we're not going to, cover for it and attribute it to 2 days. Rather, we're going to say that it's reflective of a 3-day series. Now comes a question. Fine, we understand the back and forth. Each one has its own position. Fine. Now, Rabbi Antigonus himself, here he seems to be saying that the triple stain in the same spot can be, cut different ways, and let's cut in a way which absolves her of zava. Which implies that if the stain would be located in three different parts of the garment, a square inch here, here, and here, even he would agree. It's likely that it came about through the three different experiences, one per day. Problem is that earlier in the daf, he seemed to only concede when it's three separate garments. Then we say, okay, the one he wore Sunday had a stain, it was from Sunday. Monday too. But if it's in the same garment, perhaps even if it's throughout the garment, three different locations, you can attribute it to just one day rather than a series. So we seem to have a stira. We seem to have contradicting implications within Reb Chanina ben Tignas' view himself. Reb Chanina ben Tignas, Gimel Gris Makam Echad Eloi Chayshin. The 3 gris and the 3 inches on the same spot, no concern. Which implies Habel Gimel Makam Chayshin, if they're dispersed in 3 different locations, we are concerned. And that contradicts what he said earlier. We're only concerned if it's 3 separate garments. He just told us, Begimel Chaluka is in, if it's in 3 separate garments, 1 or 3 separate days, yeah. Ha'amris, you told us there, it's a concern. And Begimel Makam Islay, but if it's in the same garment, no concern, even if it's 3 different spots in the beged. So which way is it? The answer is like this. He himself would only apply ziva if it's 3 separate garments. But he was merely relating to the Chacham on their terms. He says, look, at least agree to me that it's only concern if it was found as 3 separate stains within the beged, as opposed to when it's just one jumbo stain, where it's more likely that it came about either 1 experience or 2 experiences, but to split it into 3, it's unlikely. At least agree to me on that. I myself would discount even 3 stains in the same beged, unless it's a 3 separate beged. He was just relating to on their wavelength. My personal opinion is no way, unless it's 3 separate garments. Begimel Chaluka is in. If it's 3 separate garments, yep, that's a concern. Begimel Mekayim is loy. The same garment, even in 3 locations, not a concern. Unlikely that it was produced during 3 separate days. But according to you, at least agree to me that it should be dispersed, which is indicative of separation and independent of each other. At least agree to me if she had 3 stains in the same spot, it was a triple stain in one spot, that means we should say 2.5 inches was personal, split between 2 days, and the rest came from the louse. Rabbanan, they respond, no. We have to divide in a way which leads to the biggest chumrah, despite the fact that it's not so likely. There's a way to split it, to have the requisite amount per day, big enough to accommodate 3 days. We can't just blame it on the louse, etc. Okay, so in conclusion, Isha sees a stain, huge stain, a triple stain. Share of 3 grisen, jumbo grisen, does not make a rezava. So if it's less than 3 grisen, all agree it's not. That'll make a rezava. But if the triple stain, Tanakam says yes. We have to speculate that we have to divide it 3 ways, 1 inch per day, and she's tummy. Rochan Antinas disagrees. He says if it's 3 chalukin, 3 garments, 1 throughout 3 consecutive days, a stain discovered in each one, that makes a rezava. But if it's 3 stains in the same garment, even in 3 areas of the garment, unlikely that it came about during 3 different days, we can be mekel and absolver of ziva status. Okay, all the best to you and hatzlacha.